Welcome to this video about sad background music. Today we're going to go over a piece of music that I produced and go over what instruments are in it and what kind of gives it the sad sound. We'll be also going over some stylizing tricks, reverb, and those kind of things. And we'll have a bonus, which is the form of the track, which is probably the most important part of music that people always seem to miss out on. So let's go ahead and get into this and play the track. Alright, so that was the track, and let's go ahead and go over the instruments, what's in this piece of music. So we have piano. This is a soft piano made by Native Instruments. It's called the Gentleman. And if you take a look, what I've done here is I've put the tone all the way towards the soft side. So let's go ahead and solo play this. So you can see the track opens up with the A theme the primary theme, and it's in the key of D. The reason I'm using the key of D is because when you have a lot of like the strings play really good in the key of D, and that's because if you take a listen to like cello and violin at certain registers and certain keys, when they play right up there on the fifth at a certain register, they just sound very emotional. And when they play down into the bass region, like you have your bass players and things like that, they sound very strong. You can go lower. Obviously, you can go lower to like a key of B or whatever, and you can still play the majority of this kind of track. But you're just not going to get a powerful sound down there in the bass region without compensating with some kind of synth, probably. So I don't know. The key of D works out really well. A lot of composers always use the key of, well, not always, but a lot of times use the key of D. And a lot of these libraries are tuned to the key of D when it comes to percussion and sound design and whatnot. The key of D is just very popular, and I think it's mainly because of the strings. Strings are such an important part of orchestral music and film music in general. So there's that. So right here we also have this is a supplement to the piano. I put this in here because the piano by itself, the theme might not stand out as much, so I went ahead and added some ambient space piano from Omnisphere. So there's that, which just kind of gives it a little bit of support. So when we go into the next A section, we just don't want to have such a big contrast, because that's literally what's happening. Is you're going from piano to a woodwind and some other stuff just coming in, and the contrast is just very big. So this is really just to support that. You could probably add a little bit more as far as support to this piano, but I felt like that was good enough, at least for me. All right, so next we have obviously the Armenian woodwind duduk, which is historically a very old instrument. Let's go ahead and play it. This was performed live. Obviously, you can see that I had the virtual one, the library duduk in there, which sounded amazing on its own, but when we did the live one, it just sounded, it went to another level. So let's go ahead and solo play this. Okay, so this was actually performed in the key of B. That's because the player has more comfortable in this kind of instrument that he had. It was a lot more comfortable playing it in B because it just naturally starts there and has a more full sound. But the track didn't work in B for me, so what I did was I tuned it up by a minor third, and the player probably going to kill me when he finds out about that, but let's go ahead and see what it looks like. So if you use Cubase, you can actually tune things like audio, and obviously this is the same thing as auto tuning, but in Cubase it's a different thing, but it's in D, but originally it was performed down here in B. So let me bring that screen down. Now you can see that. So it was down in B. We went up to, well, I put it up to D. It started in B, but hopefully he doesn't kill me when he finds out I did that. All right, so the next thing we have is a duplicate of this track, but a lower cut. It's a lower cut on the EQ. Let me just actually go back here and show you all the stuff that I did to this track, because when you record it, it's not gonna sound dreamy and fit the track as good as I wanted it to in this genre. So the first thing we have is a stereo delay. Let me just take everything off. Oops. Let's take everything off for a second. Now, let's go ahead and play it dry. Well, that didn't sound dry because we have the send on. Let's take the send off. That's another reverb right there. So that's how it sounds naturally. And then what do? How do we get this to sound better and how to fit the track better? So first thing we do is stereo delay. what this does is we have the track panned to the right by 74. This delay is sending a signal to the left. If you see right here, panning it all the way to the left with 10% feedback, 100 milliseconds delay. So now that, let's go ahead and turn it off and on. Let's just see the difference. So hopefully you can get the idea when I start and stop that you're getting you're throwing it into the other side, and that just gives it a lot more realism as far as like being in a room. Get that sound of a room better because we recorded this mono dry in my studio right here where we're sitting. So we got that going on, and then the first reverb we got on this is an insert convolution hall. This is at 75%. So let's hear this turned on now. And that's going to go ahead and put it in the space initially, but it's not stylizing it yet. But we'll go ahead and give it a dreamy stylized sound when we send it to the long tail reverb, but I'll show you that in a second. Let's go over some of the EQ. Obviously, you're going to get a low cut to begin. So here's the low cut. Let's go ahead and see. And I'm cutting some of the fundamentals here in the 400 plus range, and that's because it's so sharp to my ear. I gotta cut those out. And then the second reverb we have is another like, it specifically focuses on the fundamental. Down here it's just so piercing and so like sine wave in my ear, so I gotta cut that out. Compressor, obviously we have a compressor. I'm not gonna play the before and after on that, but a basic compressor when you record live audio is usually what you add, so you balance out the audio signal. Then we have something, a mastering plugin on here, and that is simply at the end of this chain. So we can control the phasing. And that's simply putting the bottoms down a little bit towards more mono, giving a little bit of increase on the high end, widening it out on the high end. So that's the stuff there. And then this is the most important part, in my opinion, or one of the most important parts to get it to fit in this track, is putting a 6-second long delay. Is it 6 seconds? Let's go ahead and take a look what's happening over here. Yep, we got Valhalla Room, 6 seconds, and it's high cut, so we have it really just giving you the 2000 and below range, so you're not getting a bunch of high frequencies reverbing. And also in this reverb, there's obviously a low cut as well, because we don't want the low end reverbing, like really low end frequencies. So there's that. So let's go ahead and hear it with this whole process. All right, so there's that, and I thought that sounded good. We have solo violin here. And that's obviously playing the theme when we get back into it. Plays it along with a female vocal down here. Let's play that right now. All right. And what did we do to this solo violin? We did a delay again. Again, the same kind of like setup here. It's panned to the left and sending a delay to the right, so we can get a more realistic sound in the room. And then we're sending it to the 6-second delay. And there's that. So I'm using solo instruments. As you can see, we got like a solo piano, solo woodwind duduk, then we have a solo violin, then we have the solo vocalist. And I like to use solo instruments a lot because you get a very iconic sound, and it really just sets the tone, and you get a more signature sound to your music, because you're not just playing with ensembles, you have solo, and it has solo instruments have a lot of character, so that's why I like using solo instruments in combination with obviously ensemble instruments. But so like when I play the melody with the cello, I use a smaller patch. I'm not using like, you can see I have two cello instruments, two patches down here. This lower patch has a lot more players in it, so you don't really get as good of a melody performance sounding sound to it. But that's why I use this other patch, which has less players, and it's a little more dry sounding. But I stylize it obviously with my 6-second reverb as well. Let's go ahead and just play this in solo. See, so if I were to play that on the other patch with a lot more players, you're not going to get as much definition because you have so many players down there. All right, so then we have our main support, our main strings that are playing the harmony behind the track right here. Let's go ahead and boost these open. So the basses obviously play the bass root notes or whatever the bottom bass note is in the harmony, and then we have the cello. I like to play fifths down here with the cello. Let's go and hear that in solo. So I like the sound that gives, the full sound that it's offering, so I play fifths. I also play fifths with the piano over here because when you have a lot of stuff going on, you can't be using a lot of thirds because you're not going to have clarity in your music. So I got fifths there. I mean, if you take music like rock and roll music and whatnot, you know, you have a lot of that because you have so much sound going on. You need to have some clarity. You can't play the third all the time. So, and then the violas and the violins, they're playing single notes usually, but the violas do play over here in fifths. And then over here we have the violas playing fifths, and we have the cello really playing over here. We have a sub-sustain. I'm just going in order here, but we have like a sub-sustain patch, and this is just really just providing a lot of bass where the strings are lacking. So let's go ahead and play this. Hopefully you can hear that. And if we add the bass strings, you can hear both of them together. Yeah, they're simply playing the same notes together. And then we went over this. We got the vocal. Here we have the beginning drones. These are just to set the mood in the beginning of the track. So let's play these. That's just to start the track, kind of give a soft feeling, or when we have some more drier parts of the music, bring some of that back in. And then in the percussion section, we've got some impact sounds that are like really low cut, so they sound just like big fat booms. I don't know if you can even hear that. We have a transition sound, which is, these are some taiko rolls. And what do we do there? We cut the high end, so we get a kind of like a rolling bass sound going on there, like a thunder. Then we have, this is a gong. I love using those kind of cymbals because they're very big and low, and you know, just big low tune sound, and you get a very big, you know, the lower you go and register, the bigger your sound. It kind of sounds a lot bigger. So You want to get a bigger sound, go down into the lower registers and don't use cymbals that are tiny. Obviously, use big ones because you get a lower tone. Might even be able to tune this even lower, but that, I don't know. Got to try that one day. Okay, so what gives this song a sad sound? The thing is, there are a few ways to get sad sounds out of music, right? So you can get like a heroic sad sound, kind of like a sacrifice sad reflective sound, or you can get sad and hopeless. You can get a few variations of sad sounds. So what I like on this track, for example, what I did is I used harmonies, which are how do I put this? The harmonies I'm using mainly consist of the one. Obviously, the one is your root chord, which is going to be in the key of D minor. So, you can start with the D minor, and then the chords after that are usually going to be the major chords in this key. So in this case, in D minor, you have F. Here I'll highlight it, an F major, a C major, A sharp major. So if you use a minor scale, a minor key, in this case D, and then you want to use the major chords behind, or the major chords after that, you'll get a heroic kind of sad and reflective sound. It's not like a hopeless sound. So there's that. A lot of music uses this technique. They'll use the minor 1, and then they use the major 7, major 6, major 3rd. Also, if you have a major key, they use the same chords, actually, literally the same chords. So like in this case, the parallel key would be F major, and then they would use C major, A sharp major, and D minor. And you're going to get most of pop music using these chords. And whether they're playing in minor or major, these are like most of the chords you're going to see out there. But what gives this that sound, even though we're using the same harmony that usually, you're going to hear in a bunch of music, is that we're playing very slowly. That's one key, and we're playing softly. So that's another thing to consider. Play slow, play soft, give it a stylized reverb, something long and dreamy sounding. So I think those are the things that I can recommend when it comes to making it sound pretty sad. So another thing is, you got to remember there's always two emotions going on in a track at minimum. So you got your bottom layer of motion, and then you have your top layer of emotion. The bottom layer would be the arrangement behind the melody. So if our melody is doing whatever it's doing up here at the top, this is the top layer, and the bottom layer is doing something that's your bottom layer and your top layer. So you can obviously get different emotions. So down here, these chords will create a certain emotion. And then up here, the melody will create another emotion. So you can say that the melody is clearly in minor. You're having a minor scale emphasized on the melody. But down here, you could say you have a hopeful and kind of a heroic melody going on. So you have those two in combination, and you get the sad but reflective sound. And then what I did later on in this track is, in the B section, so that's the A section, right? That's the melody, the main one. And then in the B section, we have another melody which consists of pentatonic notes which are underpinned with the same kind of like lower harmony. So let's go ahead and play a B section. So that's actually starting with a major. The F major is playing under the same kind of chords. And it has kind of a pentatonic feel because we have a minor third jumping from, like, let's say, here to here. We have a minor third going from here to here. And that's very pentatonic, cowboy kind of sounding. But the same kind of harmony. So, and obviously same style of music, slow and soft. And that's what I did in the B section. So it's kind of like, you know, you don't want to have the same sound, obviously, from the A and the B. Well, I mean, maybe you do. I don't know. I like to contrast things and have the A sound with a certain kind of scale emphasized, and then the B sound, the B section sound, have a different kind of scale emphasized. One thing I forgot to mention is that you can use the same notes and the same harmony and everything the same, but you can put like a rap beat or a pop beat behind this and make the music faster, and you're pretty much not going to feel sad. It's just going to feel kind of upbeat. And there are countless examples of this, obviously, in pop music, using the same chords, same melody, same everything, but you're going to get a very different sound. And one of the last things we're going to talk about, which is probably the most important thing to talk about, really, is the form. The form of the track, which I actually like to call your strategy, because really, at the end of the day, if you don't have a good form or you're not gonna have a good strategy. Your music's gonna fall short. Literally, you'll have shorter music because you can't extend it if you don't have a good strategy. So let's just talk about what I did here. What I did is, starting with an A, the piano plays the A section here. Then we come in with extra instruments playing another A section. Right after that, we're gonna go with the B section right here throughout this part. Then after that, we're going to go back to an A, followed by another more powerful A. Then we're going to go into a B section again. And then we're going to be following that up with another B section played with a counter melody behind it. That way we're not getting stale, because we already played the B section. This is the third time we're playing the B section, so we're adding to it with a counter melody. So there's many ways to add or emphasize things, or keep it so where it's moving and not getting stale. One is adding counter melody. 2 is variation of a theme. 3 is just simply making things more powerful and adding more instruments behind it. Those are the main ways to keep things going without getting dry. After this B section plays twice, then we go into right here. This is a bridge, which you only hear once. You're not going to hear that again in the track. It's simply a bridge to go back to the A section. But this time we go into the A section, we hear the theme, which is not the same. It's a variation of the main theme. And then we have an outro. So I guess what we can say is we can classify the form here, or the strategy. What can give us this music to go for about 4 minutes is the fact that it has an intro. It has an A section followed by another A section. Then we got a B, going back to A, then going back to A, more powerful. Then we're going back to B, more powerful than the beginning, and then a B plus a counter melody. Then we have a bridge. Then we have an ending A section with a variation. So it's not the same. It's not playing the same. Then we have the outro. So there's that. If we wanted to extend this track even further, then you'd have to get more creative, probably add a C section into this, and just have that being very, very much a variation of the A section. But that's the form I used on this track. So if you're trying to make a longer form sad music, that's kind of a strategy you can use. All right, so I think that's it for this video. If you liked it, please leave a comment, a thumbs up, a subscribe, or whatever you can do, and let me know if you like it. We'll do more of these.